Hello, hope you're having a good one. So, we've all seen it, or had the desire to do it, get an ultra low angle shot, but it's below where the tripod can go. With a hefty cinema camera, what are you gonna do? Well, today we're gonna be going over one potential solution, known as the HiHat, and how you can build your own on a budget. So first let's go over what a hi-hat is. Essentially a hi-hat is a low-tech solution to get the camera as low as possible to the ground. So it consists of a riser bracket with a tripod head bowl on top and then a flat base it mounts to. So it really is that simple, and they're used on a ton of sets. So not only are they used all over the place for low angle shots, they're used for just standard low shots, as well as sometimes in a pinch as a car mount. Now this is very sketchy if you end up doing this, but it can be done with straps. Just be very, very careful if you do it. Okay, so now let's go into how I made mine. But before we do, if you find the information in this video helpful, consider giving the video a like. If you want to see more like it, consider subscribing. It really helps me out a ton. And if not, that dislike button works extra well if you hit it twice. So how did I make my hi-hat? Well, I ended up using a 75mm riser bowl that I got off of Amazon a few years ago. This definitely isn't the ideal part to use. You really want a riser with multiple legs on it to provide extra stability, but it's what I had laying around and it works perfectly well for me. It's also a good budget option if you're not looking to spend the $150 that a legged riser would cost. Now make sure when selecting a riser, you choose the correct bowl size for whatever tripod head you're trying to fit. You can do this in 75, 100, or 150mm. Just get whatever fits your tripod head. If your tripod head doesn't have a bowl, you can actually get a bowl adapter for flat tripod heads. I have some links to some risers down below, as well as some legged risers if you want to go super legit. Now I do actually plan in the future to upgrade to a legged riser. However, right now this one works perfectly fine for me. Next, I took some 3/4 inch plywood I had laying around and cut out a 15 inch by 15 inch square. Now, the more professional models are going to be 18 inch by 18 inch. This is so they can handle bigger camera packages, but as of right now, the compactness of 15 by 15 works perfectly fine for my setup. But if you're trying to rig a more expensive setup, definitely go for the 18 by 18. It'll just provide you a little bit more stability on the platform overall. The next part is optional and a little more difficult, but it definitely helps out with weight, mounting, especially with straps, and overall carryability. So here I'm referring to the handles. I cut them with a 1.5 inch hole saw on the end of a drill, and I just ended up drilling it down a bunch of times next to each other, about 1.75 inches in on the side of the board, and then taking a coping saw and cutting all of the little triangles off, and then using sandpaper to smooth it all out. The handle in total ended up being about 6 inches long, and if you end up doing this, definitely make sure to take your time. If you don't, it might end up looking kind of sloppy. Also, if you're doing this, I recommend actually going 2 inches in. I think the 1.75 inch in is fine, but I'd like to have a little more of a handle on it so that I'm not worried about it breaking at some point in the future. At 1.75 inches, it is pretty strong, but again, I just like to have that extra sense of security. Also, hole saw wise, I think I would recommend going with a 1 inch instead of a 1.5 inch hole saw. The 1.5 inch seems a little bit excessive. Could be useful if you're rigging it up later on, but I think you're probably going to be okay with a 1 inch, and it gives you more meat on the sides of the handles so that it has a little more strength. So after that, I ended up drilling 2 holes in the center that matched up to the bottom of the riser plate, so I could put bolts through the plate so I could secure the riser. And then I actually countersunk those bolts, which basically means that you drill a little bit bigger holes so that the bolt heads themselves can actually recede into the wood so that it has a completely flat bottom. Finally, again, I did something kind of optional and I ended up routing all of the edges. This was really to knock off any hard edges so I didn't end up chipping or cracking the wood later on. You can do this with sandpaper if you want to save some money and not have to buy a whole router. But for me, it just ended up looking a little more consistent and I already had a router, so that's why I did it. And finally, I finished the wood with a polyurethane finish. This is very durable and water resistant, so that's why I ended up going with polyurethane. Actually, it's used on the bottom of skateboards as well, so you know it's pretty durable. But here you can really use anything you like to finish the wood, or you can leave it unfinished. A lot of film gear actually is already unfinished, so that's kind of dealer's choice. That's up to you on whatever your preference is. So that's how you make a hi-hat for low angle shots. But I'd be curious to know what other ways you guys have gotten low angle shots. There's no right or wrong answer, so it'd be really interesting to hear. Also, let us know if you have any other cool low angle shot ideas. It might spur you on, or it might even end up inspiring someone else. Alright, that's all I have, guys. If you have time and enjoyed the video, a like is very much appreciated. If you want to see more like this, a subscription is also very much appreciated. As always, I hope you learned something, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.